Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women, non-conformers and non-believers, gender X and gender equals, welcome to Eat the Storms. I am your host, Damien B. Donnelly, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Poetry Podcast. We are now on the final countdown to Christmas and also coming to the end of Season 1. We still have a few more episodes to go before we say a final and grateful farewell to 2020 and this season that has been so warmly received and filled full of frickin' brilliant luminaries of the poetry world. So stay tuned for another few weeks that will include, of course, the Christmas special, but don't worry as we will be back in January for Season 2. It has been an exciting week here as it was announced on Monday that my poem entitled Tattered Brown Trousers for my debut collection, Eat the Storms, has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize from the Hedgehog Poetry Press. So I am extremely happy and floating in the stars. Yesterday, I was also the Zoom host for a group of poets who all have new collections coming out, also from the Hedgehog Poetry Press. So congratulations to all of them, many of whom have been on the show already, including Gaynor Kane, Karen Mooney, Margaret Royal, Brian McManus, Niall M. Oliver, Vicky Pickup and Martin Malone. So check out the Hedgehog Poetry Press website for details on where to buy their collections. Meanwhile, on today's episode, I am joined by a Monday morning muse, a majestical merman, a German-sounding Scot and a poet with a cat jingling in the bell tower. We travel from Ireland to England, over to Germany and around the world to the United States. So let's get on with the poetry. I'm going to start this episode with a poem entitled Being Bold. In these days where we are facing more losses, time dissolving through our hands, where we are trying to make an understanding of what day it is, this poem is about making the most of the minutes that we have here on this planet that will last longer than any of our footsteps. But it is up to us to find ways to be brave and make those temporary footprints count. Beauty is raw beneath this blood-red sky where we lie delirious, licking at lazy, drunken ships trudging through bitter beds, frantic to find our way to smoother seas. Man is but a whisper. The shadows sing to the sun. But I want to milk the storm before my summer sinks beneath this shade. The moon cannot be the only light to cast its reflections upon these waters. Surely we too can be as bright as that night. Beauty is raw, but bold can be breathtaking. Our first guest on today's show joins us all the way from New Jersey in the United States and is a writer, editor and independent scholar. Her published work focuses predominantly on the history of women, sexuality and culture, including the books Sexual Harassment, Encyclopedia of Rape and The American History of Cooking. Her poetry has been published in Black Bough Press, Street Life, Rhythm and Bones, and The Same, and many, many more. She lives with her husband and her 2 cats, and I first fell in love with her on her WordPress, reading her poetry, and when I lived in Paris every Monday, my lunch break was spent reading this person's Monday morning musings. So please welcome to the storms, my muse, Merril D Smith.
Hi Damien. This first poem is called Sashiko. It was published in Anti-Heroin Chic. It was inspired by a condolence card that a friend sent to me after my mother died last April. She knows about hearts, has seen them flutter and fall from peaks, seen the lines flattened, a demarcation, the boundary of a new frontier beyond the visible. She's felt the spirit go, has comforted those left behind, but her own heart is frayed, has been mended over and over. She has darned the tattered fragments, the threads visible if you know where to look, and some do. They've sewn zigzag stitches to elegantly bind the tears in their broken hearts. This poem is called Moon Landing. It was published by Black Bough Poetry. It's a remembrance of the night of the moon landing. We had just gotten some new puppies that day, and I remember my dad watching the landing, much more interested than I was. On that warm July night, my father watched Moonstruck as Neil Armstrong took his giant leap. I remained firmly earthbound, watching our new puppies in the TV screen light, their small black and white bodies tumbling, stepping hesitantly into the futures. Now, ensorcelled by moon glow, I plummet back, landing my time rocket on the rocky surface of memory. This poem is called Fragments of a Perfect Whole. It was published in an anthology, As the World Burns, and the title comes from Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. The world seems broken. Fragments scatter on howling winds. I stand in the eye of the storm, calm. Here, each day lasts a week. Each week lasts a year. Then it's over in a blink, like the world existing in a puddle, where the sun illuminates the rippling trees, but only at the right angle, then disappears as clouds drift together and apart, and trees reach up to touch them. I stand and watch as they float by in a corona sky, and I'm waiting for the storm to pass, for the scent of bright green grass carried on a soft spring breeze, with robin trill and mockingbird song, a chorus, fragments of a perfect whole. Notes in nature's symphony, where birth's piccolo is followed by death's snare drum, a coda that repeats and life continues. Perhaps not a song, but a puzzle, with random pieces missing, knocked from the table by a cosmic cat's paw, to be found in another time, another path, the road not taken. Truth, the design mostly complete, beauty still recognizable. Perhaps that's enough. This is called The Traitor's Gate. They sail, a slow journey from glory to despair. Above them, vacant-eyed heads grin in recognition of what was and what shall be. Memories carried as if by magic through the green English fields where the ghosts wander, waiting for history to be rewritten in each new reign. Queen to traitor, rebel to hero, recusant to saint. This is called First Love. It was published in Nightingale and Sparrow's Heat issue. I actually married my high school sweetheart, and we're still married. First Love. This universe is secret smiles, a boy, a girl, blushing stammers of, will you? Are we? It is slow eternity, delicious magic, a look, a kiss, that time of joy embraced and gone, remembered in the heat of a summer night.
The next poem I'm going to read for you today is entitled Stardust and revolves around all we try to hold on to, the light we blaze and the time we cannot keep up with. Stardust. The fallout from the flames. A nebula of that once known by name, now falling through time and space. Trailing dust. The trail of gentle dust in place of touch, in lieu of place, in lieu of hold, and how we held on to things, these nebulous things, tighter and stronger, longer after. Trying to hold a star when all there is dust. Molecules of light, blazing through the silence of this night. But behold the sight. The night is falling, but the light is just unfolding. Look up. Stardust is falling, writing names across the sky just for us. Stardust. Okay, dear listeners, we are now in for a real treat, as it is the first time on this poetry podcast that I get to introduce you to a merman. The Little Merman of British poetry, to be precise. A queer poet and copywriter whose pamphlet is entitled These Queer Merboys, published by Broken Sleep. This collection has been described as a mythical dreamscape of merman, a world charged with powerful eroticism where desire is fraught with danger. These Queer Merboys is an enticing, exuberating debut pamphlet from a brave new voice in poetry. I've just ordered my copy today and I advise you to do the same thing. Please welcome the original merman poet himself, Serge Neptune.
Hi, my name is Serge Neptune. I'm a London-based poet, and in my poetry I explore queerness through the metaphor of mermen. I'm going to read you 2 or 3 poems from my debut pamphlet called This Queer Merboys, which was published beginning of the year by Broken Sleep Books. This poem's called The Merman Tells Us About a Dinner Date Gone Oh So Wrong. I stabbed my hand with a kitchen knife and screamed as you ran to grab a napkin. As you opened the drawer, I stabbed my hand a second time to find out how much of myself I could hold together as a single unity of pain. You came back with a blood-red napkin from New Year's Eve, sifting the air with it like a matador, and tried to choke the pit of my wound that wouldn't stop overflowing, holding down my arm. My hand chakra might be damaged forever. You set me in your car and informed me about how much it would cost to clean the seats. I lifted my arm and could see the plum of the moon, sweating light of albino pools through the hole in my hand and directly into my eye. The nurses confabulated at the front desk, while a guy looking like a shaman played his drums in the corner near the vending machine. Even with no documents, I was taken in. I shouted at the sight of the knife, so they brought a spoon instead, and all I ate was jelly. They left me with a bandage, a glass of water on my bedside, and a couple of white pills. Tiny full moons of good riddance. Think of this as couples therapy, he said. Love is a recipe you should approach with care. One must respect its religion, every ritual gesture adding up to the final flavor. He dismantled the fish carcass, removed spine and skin, how the cobweb of its blood branched out across the pulp in tiny streams. He added the fish flakes to the saucepan, filled with milk and vegetables, kept all the utensils by his side. How each piece slowly blended to the next, the way vines entwine to one another until no wall is left. By then, the kitchen was a limp joke of moisture. He glided in the steam like a starfish, and I set his prey, waiting for him to pull his innards out and suckle on my tissue, every stomach gland fizzing with joy. The floating game. Mr. Barnum, the circus master, repeats once more he's worried. I should take better care of my tail. The scales have lost their shine. Parasites spread on fins. Laceration and loss of skin may follow. Uncertain on whether vet or physician can provide the right fix, they feed me pills to fill the chamber of my brain with smoke. Here, in the tank, where I only swam in circles, tense with boredom, wondering if by now the skies are post-apocalyptic amber stuffed with bugs, or grim like the top shelf up there you haven't dusted in ages. A new day entails a new display of eccentricities. The wild and exotic caged tight and well, so spectators feel safe. By now I master the concrete art of raising a smile upon demand. Look, the crowd of monkeys cheerfully pointing at me, as if I am the strange one. When not cooperating, they leave low-voltage electrodes in water, a fuzzy assemblage of nauseous fits. When cleaning or bringing food, they'll arrive with wax stuck in their ears, scared I may hum a few notes. Every day I practice total immobility, stillness worthy of a Zen master, and float like that goldfish your kid has forgotten to feed for an entire week. Now, picture the scene. Mr. Barnum coming closer to check on his motionless specimen. Picture him as he slowly opens the tank. Now, sudden leap, teeth arrayed about his throat, refusing to let go.
The next poem that I'm going to share with you now sticks with the sea, and this poem is called To Learn to Trust Without Turning. Time swims out on a tide I wish I could capture forever on a canvas to comfort. I drop my shirt and turn like Orpheus and lose hold. Sands slide over skin as seaweed slivers snake-like along this shore once so unsure. Rock recalls all the lava once eliminated. I stand in all the stillness that once roared. even as the tides tempt my feet to come out further into that bay of blinding eternity. The sea is breathtaking. But only days later, all seems lost, and I wonder what the wave took out with it, and where is my Eurydice now? Our next guest on today's show spent her childhood wandering around the mountains of Northern California, got her degree in her 30s from UC Berkeley, and currently resides in San Francisco as a freelance writer and proofreader. She has been nominated for Best of the Net, appeared in countless journals including Nine Muses, Aerial Poets, Fevers of the Mind Poetry, Black Bough Press and Long Leaf Review, to name but a few. Her debut collection, entitled The Gull and the Bell Tower, will be published by Femme Salve Books next month. This is definitely one you are going to want to make room for on your bookshelves. Please welcome to the podcast, accompanied by her cat, the wonderful Kari Flickinger.
Hello. Thank you, Damien, for including me in this lovely podcast. My name is Kari Flickinger, and the poems that I will be reading are from my forthcoming book, The Gull and the Bell Tower. And that's published by Femme Salve Press. Okay, the first poem that I have for you was inspired by an Old English riddle from the 10th century. And it's called Onion Flowers Are Beginning. The onion flowers are beginning to keel over, tip to the source of all burgeoning beginnings, transcendence in the sidewalk, purple, into the divine, edge into an act of divinity, suck back to deep minerals, red clay, fool's gold, sweetly seep as green shoots. Onions pivot in liminal exult through layers no longer plundered, and the maidens no longer svelte or fine and wet and may meander soil soaked in this vicious way. This is a poem that was inspired by Stravinsky's Petrushka, which I caught at the San Francisco Symphony a few years ago. Starstring wind, rusting, out on a symphony stage. I know your eyes are two blinking dots, and I can hear your response, the tension breath. I can hear the culling, the silver thrust when your bow makes contact. Star creature extends, sends his throttle through the sky, sends ice wind with simultaneous fire tail. Oh, that breath. Wood echoes on taut hairs. You blink across. I know you. Can hear metals slice out there, fire falling wisp. You hold your breath in for as long as you can stand as the strings slide as echo-woven location. Brass and planets slam backbone as the city quickens from this display. Such sound as the slush of every bow. The delay of breath is too much for a heart to expand to. And I am losing the star you. I'm losing the start as it winds too quickly. There's a little crackling sound in the background. That is the sound of my cat eating. So that's just a special extra for this reading. Okay, I'll do the title piece, The Gull and the Bell Tower. And I was volunteering for a convention at UC Berkeley, and I had to get there real early to beat traffic and help direct some caterers one morning. So I sat at this picnic table in a little courtyard, and it was all morning dew and cold and wet air, and I watched this bird swoop above me. And it would swoop and then settle, swoop and settle. And he was at that for a little bit, and then the bell at its other tower rung, and he just and flew off, and I didn't know if he was going to come back. I wrote this that morning. The Gull and the Bell Tower. I am pinging through thrushes. I stole away your reverberations. I am too immense to hold in flight. I am my own on air, my own on air. There's star stuff behind your eyes, feathers and coal. Touchable, tangible, tethered neck. Do not caress my neck, dear one. I want to wrap myself in softness, trace this place is you, under the extraneous fluff of your ruff. Enough, enough. Your sound is clear and loud and strong, and I am cloistered here. But you scatter on the wind when I reach out. I stole away your reverberations. I grew up in this little town in Northern California called Placerville. And there used to be this coffee house in town that was, it was built into this old building with a cave in the back of it. And sometime in my 20s, I was really young, probably like 21 or 22. I was dating this man, and he was the worst. I found out later that he had been married, but we were making out in that cave sometime, and this poem is about that. So, bards convene in gold country. Bourbon drops ochre on our tongues. We've been so hungry for lost light. Gouged walls filter where each lamp dissipates. Limbs clutch as we level stone upon stone, waiting in soft dust. Sweltering mist splices at each curvature of elbow, knee, and lip. Quiet fills each bend. Sound loses all timing. Listen to the fusion, the mineral click. Our cool, slight space. This shudder. Thank you. I am really grateful to be included alongside the wonderful poets that you've featured, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Sticking with stars and fires and connections, this next poem is entitled The Diamonds of Our Eyes. We are all stars. We twist and turn and twinkle. We are the bright, burning light. We blaze like the stars. Twinkle, twinkle, we burn. We are burning like the stars burned out tick-tock, hurtling across the sky, hurting beneath the sky where we cry. We are all stars, fast-paced, Fast moving, we are scuttling, scooting, shooting stars, shooting the other. Bullets and diamonds. The diamonds in the sky. The diamond of your eye, that reflection, that detection. The glare, your stare. The star. Twinkle, tock, twinkle, tock. We are all stars. We are here now, tick, but long gone tomorrow, tock. Light years lost in seconds. We are blazing, brilliant, bright on borrowed time. We are nothing. Nanoseconds. Empty. We have burnt it all already. We are burning out now. Before begun. But those souls, how they can shine eternal. Our final guest on today's show is a self-confessed sea witch, a mother to a tall human and a mid-sized dog, a poet, and is half Scottish and half German with an accent that combines the best of both. Her work has been featured in Anti-Heroin Chic, Poetry in Public, Rejection Letters and Rivermouth Review. When she sent me this recording for the podcast, I listened to it at the beginning just to check that the sound was fine, not thinking I was actually going to listen to all the poems. But that proved impossible, and I ended up sitting in silence, sobbing, cheering and thinking, holy cow, this is bloody poetry perfection. Dear listeners, sit back and relax and let me introduce you to the beauty, if you haven't already heard it, of Annick Yerem.
Hello, my name is Annick Yerem and I'm joining you from Germany today. I'm a German-Scottish poet who lives in Berlin. And first of all, Damien, congratulations on your beautiful book and on this podcast. I'm so happy and honored to be part of this. I will read you a few poems, starting off with a poem for my dad, sort of his eulogy, called Worded Worlds, a Remembrance for Pepe. 1. What I know. My daughter has chestnut eyes and seaweed hair. She's 5 or 10 or 50. I hold whole worlds inside my stitched up head, otters, riddles, my collected lifetimes. Today I woke up singing. So much more that I could do right now, so much less. 2. Welthaltig. Sei bedeutend und welthaltig, your everyday goodbye. No real translation, something, someone enfolds the world. When I was young, I held in the palm of my hand the wonders, the heartbreaks, the trees. If I breathed, they could disappear. You don't say it anymore, but I do. I whisper it through the ghost of your beard, through the scars on your scalp. 3. The making. Everyone dies, but not everyone dies, right? Take Chopin, you will see my fingers trace the music on the grand piano darkening our living room. Wish on blossoms during Sakura season. Look at pictures of me in Kumamoto, drunk and happy, writing Tanaka is crazy on a blackboard. Think of us building shacks on the beach, a father-daughter dance of shells and sand and driftwood. I need to remember you. I'm still listening, still here. Look at me. Look at everything I gave you. all the words. I collected all those worlds in the making. The second poem is about me clearing out my parents' house, which I'm doing right now. So an emotionally quite charged situation, and I've been thinking a lot about memories and where we put them and how we deal with them and how we move on. It's called Found Objects. A house in a box. A house in a box in a room. A house in a box in a room in a house. The house is not a home. It is smooth and blue to the touch. My home is not a home. The blue house in a box in a room in a house that is not a home could be a home. I could live in the house in a box. My thoughts, my plans could live there. The house has no price. It costs the world. It means so much and nothing to me. I touch its surface, its blues, its slight. Today it is a small house in a big room, in a big house, filled to the brim with other small houses that no one threw away when it was time. The house is not a home. The box is not a home. I am not a home until all the houses, all the boxes are gone. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
The final two poems I'm going to leave you with today are about connections, achieved and unreachable, dreams, memories and traditions. The first is called In the Soul, which I wrote at 4 a.m, jet-lagged and excited and bewildered in Seoul in South Korea, having just arrived from Paris and not yet settled into its pace of life or aware of the needs of my own life at the time. I arrived in South Korea as Trump arrived into North Korea, and there was a lot of shifting of dust and worry and excitement and fear. And the second poem is entitled Connection. This city does not sleep. The wind as wistful as thoughts I cannot gather. Here, on this sojourn to the south of the soul, horns honk along highways, waking drivers out of daydreams the night cannot decipher, and we buckle up and giggle briefly in back seats. But I cannot distinguish those star-bound lanterns hung with hope from the knotted sheets I know not how to untwist. On the soft slopes, where Buddha has been worshipped into rock, helicopters chase the rising sun while you chase the parts of yourself that pills cannot pacify. Dysphoria is the new mantra. This body won't sleep. This mind has taken to meander along this midway as trumpeters announce connecting trains we are always breathless to keep up with. Where palaces accumulate space in place of standard stains of garish gold. Here, on this eastern stretch of the journey, here, where cars honk in foreign tongues far from familiar. All is not what it once was. This mouth no longer makes sense as I cut across sweeping vistas of strange words, breathed with bows and ways so traditional they worry the West. Here, where there is more space to breathe and my lungs ache to adapt. In the north, strange armies are trumping connections the other continents are too confused to comprehend. But here, south of the strangled ties and demented ducks, sitting sweet beneath a wiser moon, the streets are awash with twinkling stars below a billowing blanket of nature's blossom, a covering of comfort which concrete cannot squash and man cannot master. My body cannot sleep. I've seen too much, but still hope for more while this city wakes up to who it truly wants to be. And the last poem for this episode is entitled Connections. Water, silent, stillness, reflection, connection. Make the connection. Elements, water, earth, air. I can be the fire. The fire. I walk on the water. I dream I walk on the water. I see stillness. I dream I walk on the stillness of the water. I hear the silence. I am the silence, dreaming of the stillness that walks on the water. I am the reflection. I am the silent reflection of the dream that once walked on the stillness of all this water. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women, nonconformers and non-believers, gender X and gender equals, we have reached that time for me to say thank you for joining us for another episode of Eat the Storms. I have been your host, Damien B. Donnelly, and my guests on today's show have been Merril D Smith, Kari Flickinger, Serge, Neptune and Annick Yerem. For ways of following or supporting or buying their books, then please check out all the details on the website www.eatthestorms.com and check out the podcast section. For any questions or comments, or if even you want to be one of our guests, then please don't hesitate to contact me at eatthestorms@yahoo.com. We will be back, of course, again next week. So until then, stay safe, stay well, have fun hanging the baubles. Make sure not to forget the mistletoe, even if Christmas kisses are a little bit questionable this year in quarantine. And most of all, stay bloody poetic.